All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are here for a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape May. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. Today is Tuesday, August 6, 2024. The time is now 12:02. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council, posted on the City website and City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that City Council meetings are audio recorded or video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Deputy Mayor Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember McDade.
Here.
Councilmember Meyer is absent. Mayor Mullock.
Here.
Councilmember Yeager.
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz.
Here.
City Manager Dietrich.
Here.
Deputy Manager Riggs.
Here.
And Deputy Clerk Turner.
Here.
Okay. We have one resolution for the special meeting. It's 217-08-2024, a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12. This is to discuss the Cape May MAC lease, the Cape May stage lease, the 702 Beach Avenue lease, and the tax assessor position.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager.
Yes.
Councilmember McDade.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin.
Yes.
Mayor Mullock.
Yes.
Public portion, Mayor.
Is anyone here wishing to speak on this going into closed session? Seeing no one, we can close public comment and go into closed session. The time is now 12:04. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, we're coming out of a closed session there. First, we'll have to close that out. Do I have a motion to close our executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
For the record, the time is 1:10. City Solicitor, do we have any updates on that session?
I don't think council anticipates taking any formal action
Okay.
tonight on a closed session item.
Okay. With that, we will open up our work session meeting. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. Today is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. The time is now 1:10. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the city website and City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that City Council meetings are audio recorded and/or video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Deputy Mayor Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember McDade.
Here.
Councilmember Meyer.
Here.
Mayor Mullock.
Here.
Councilmember Yeager.
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen-Schwartz.
Here.
City Manager Dietrich.
Here.
Deputy Manager Riggs.
Here.
Deputy Clerk Turner.
Here.
Any additions or deletions, Council?
Council, any additions or deletions?
I think we have
Yeah, Mayor, if we could, after further review of Resolution 218-0824, we'd ask that that be pulled. We need to do a little, I need to do a little more research on that request and before we process it.
Okay.
So we'll bring it back when it's more thoroughly reviewed.
Do we need a motion to delete that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that, Council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember McDade.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin.
Yes.
Mayor Mullock.
Yes.
Any other additions or deletions, Council?
Anything else, Council? No? On to the consent agenda? Or, no, I'm not even close to the consent agenda.
Employee of the Month, Mayor. Soon enough. Soon enough.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. On to the Employee of the Month. I was not trying to skip anybody.
Thank you. I'm going to, so our Employee of the Month this month is Desiree Matthews. She's in the Tourism and Recreation Department. So I'm going to ask her to come up here so she gets to stand up here while I talk about her. So Desiree has been a great addition to the city, and like myself, she's one of the newer members of the city. She was hired back in January of 23 and quickly proved herself in the Civic Affairs and Recreation time and became full-time in April. And then just after 1 year, she was promoted to Event and Recreation Coordinator. And really where she excels is she's our director down at Camp Cape May. So if you're ever down at Camp Cape May, she's the one that makes that thing hum and go. She's managing upwards of 100 children and 10 other counselors. So it's a lot to keep moving. And Desiree has just jumped in and pushed it really forward, and it really makes a great event. If you've never been able to stop down there when all the kids are out there, it's a running, screaming fest. And if she ever gets married, I don't know if she's going to want to have kids after having to deal with all these kids. It's kind of like being a teacher, but she gets to see all these kids probably at their best, and she is a great down there. She's very reliable and hardworking, and as you can see from her smile, that's what's almost great. It seems like every time I have an Employee of the Month, the staff is just so great. They're always really positive and outgoing, and Desiree just really fits into that. And I think we're really lucky to have her as part of our Cape May City team. So I'm just really glad to say that she's our Employee of the Month for this year. So congratulations.
Very nice. Desiree, just personally, it's always, I've dropped my 3 kids off to you, so I know you're a saint. And in all seriousness, you always have a smile, always are positive, and such a good representative of the city of Cape May. So we thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. With that, we will move on to the performance hearings. Mr. Blauer, if you would come join us.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for helping us pay for such important projects.
Well, it's a pleasure to work for the city.
Yep.
I'm going to pass to Chris a handout that I'll be going over. I'm going to hand out to this gentleman here what I'm going to be covering today. Again, I'm Mark Blauer. I'm a grant writer. I've been fortunate enough to work for the city since 2008. I've worked on many projects that relate to the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is grant money from the state that originates with the U.S. Department of HUD. And each year, the state has a competition where we can apply for a piece of a larger pie of money, typically $400,000 at a time. The last 4 years we've applied, and each of the last 4 years we won. Prior to that, I worked on projects for ADA compliance at the Promenade, East Lyle Lane, Carpenter's Lane, Rotary Park, the Villages, others which I no doubt have forgotten due to my age. The most recent 4 projects are either completed, not quite started, or underway. On my notes here, the 2021 project is the work that's ongoing now, which is a redundant 12-inch water transmission main that activity is going on at Canning House Lane area through South State. That work is underway. It's largely completed, but it will not be completed, I think, in its entirety until probably September, at which time we will draw the $400,000 grant that we have available to the city. The purpose of that grant is to provide redundancy in terms of your main transmission capacity. We cannot afford to lose a transmission main on a hot day in August and suddenly have much of the city without water. So we're building redundancy into the system. Before problems occur, you get ahead of it. The 22 project, which is not on this list, is already completed. That is the Kiwanis Park ADA compliance project. That project originated from council. I recall speaking to the mayor at times about that being a good project. He convinced me it was a good project. We applied, we won, that project's done. Anybody who's been to Kiwanis Park saw the improvements we made. The 23 project is largely completed. That was the beach mat project, where we purchased beach mats to improve access for people with mobility issues. The beach mats make it a lot simpler for somebody with a disability to traverse our beach. And those have been purchased, and I believe that they're in use now. We've already gotten reimbursement for all but $107,508. We have beach wheelchairs that we were also purchasing through this grant, and some materials to improve one of our existing ADA ramps that existed that needs reconstruction. When those invoices come in as well, we will draw that money. If there is in fact money at that point, the council, Paul, our engineer, ourselves will all talk about how to find a way to spend it. If you have another $20,000 at the end, buy more beach wheelchairs or buy more materials for ramp repair. But we'll spend all the money.
Yep.
The last project I have that is not quite off the ground is our 2024 project. It's so new that we don't have a project number. I'm going to pass again to Chris the announcement we got from the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs back in May. And I'll pass this around to this gentleman again. This is the announcement letter that we got in May of this year for ADA compliance improvements, Phase 1 at the Cape May Tennis Center. We identified through a report, I think it was the Cornell report, of a variety of deficiencies in terms of ADA accessibility. We submitted a Phase 1 application last year in December, and that project was approved in May. We got a partial amount. There's nothing to say we can't go for more work as a Phase 2 or a Phase 3. The intention was not to solve all the problems at the tennis center with one grant. Going back to Carpenter's Lane some years ago, that was 3 grants, consecutive grants. We kept going back to improve one bit at a time. That area naturally broke up into blocks, of course. So we took one block on at a time, and basically starting at this end and then working our way down to Congress Hall. So that project, we're expecting any time to get the grant agreement, hopefully August, at which point Paul, our engineer design associates, council will all talk about what improvements we're going to make on first phase, since it is understood that the facility might be historically significant. We'll need to coordinate closely with the HPC, get their blessing on a plan, then go to New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Historic Preservation. That typically is a fairly simple approval once we have the HPC on board with a plan. But that project is going to go into the planning phase, and you could expect that work would be proceeding in 2025, most likely in the off-season, meaning the logical time to do this work is not in August or July, but September, October, November. So that's a project that would be for next year. So those are the 4 projects we've been working on most recently. One's not underway yet. One is completed, Kiwanis Park. The beach mat project is ongoing with the beach wheelchairs and other things we're getting. And the water transmission main project, which is not obviously visible to people on most public streets, that work is ongoing too. So the purpose of this hearing is to ask the public, what do you think about these projects, and give us suggestions for future projects. Many of these projects originated with discussions with council. They just didn't, it wasn't a case where the grant writer or the engineer just came up with it. We talk a lot about what we have and what we can do. The one big caveat is that whatever we do must primarily benefit people of low moderate income. The city as a whole is no longer viewed as primarily low moderate income. The last project we got through that door was the water project. More typically, we have to pick our shots carefully. We've been picking ADA compliance because by definition, handicapped, disabled persons are by definition low income regardless of their actual income. As a group, it's a group that we can call 100% low moderate income. In a similar way, senior citizens as a group are viewed as 100% low moderate income. So if you want to do a senior center or renovate a senior center, that's eligible. So again, this is your opportunity to tell us what you think on the record about the project we've been undertaking, to make Aaron's task simpler. Tell us who you are and where you live so we can put your information down in our records. The transcript will go to the state after this hearing, that I'll present that to them saying we had a performance hearing. So again, I'm Mark Blauer. I'll be happy to answer any questions. If any questions too difficult, defer to Paul on engineering parts, but here's your opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, very much. I'd just add two quick ones. The 12 wheelchairs have arrived and are being used just maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. So the wheelchairs are here. Those are the beach wheelchairs. And the ramp that Mark mentioned is Mount Vernon. If anyone knows where that is, it's basically our last beach all the way down, closest to the cove. great little lookout spot, but the ramp itself is in poor condition, and certainly not very good for wheelchairs, to say the least. So that will be a winter project as part of this fund, which we're excited about as well. So very, very good stuff.
I'll work with our CFO, Kevin, to get the invoice for the beach wheelchairs.
Perfect.
And we can draw the money for the materials as soon as we purchase them. We don't have to necessarily have them put into use. But the name of the game with the state to get more money is spend the money you have. Get it, spend it, move on to something else. So we've been demonstrating that, and we have good credibility with the state. That's why we won the last 4 years. Again, opportunity for questions, comments?
I have a question, if I may.
Sure, Shane.
Mark, do you ever pursue federal grants?
Well, in an odd way, let's, for example, this money is federal money, but it passes through the state.
Okay.
So we have all the federal rules that apply to federal projects, even though the money is coming from the State Department of Community Affairs. I commonly also work on projects like the USDA Water and Waste Program for water and sewer. That's typically a loan program, sometimes grants. And the reason why the Department of Community Affairs program is so popular, even though it's a small size, it's 100% grant. And your match is 10 to 15% maximum. So that makes it very attractive. So if you're dealing with, the last time I did a USDA project was one of the projects for Middle Township for a sewer extension to Grassy Sound. And a substantial grant, but also a substantial loan. And consequently, the DCA program tends to be more popular. Grants are just typically more popular than loans. But I do work at the USDA program. I don't work on DOT projects. Those are the province of engineers. I don't work on road projects. I'll consider anything in terms of other applications. I did a lot of the recreation projects the last year for the Local Recreation Improvement Grant Program. That was a fairly easy program. Applied for 6, got 6. But they're limited about $70,000. I think you've applied for that as well. They're not complicated. You can do them yourself. I do them because other people are busy with their own jobs of being administrators and clerks and so forth.
Right.
That's why I step in and help with that. But I'll consider almost anything.
Well, my next question, you might not be able to answer. I'm all for, helping people with mobility issues, senior citizens, and the alike. How do we get a ramp at the post office?
I sent you that time. There's a mirror image of that post office.
That's right. It's a cookie cutter building.
If you go to Ellenville, New York, in the Catskills, they built these post offices during the 30s and 40s under the Roosevelt administration, and they look darn near the same, and they have a ramp. And I sent you the photos that
I
time.
remember. Yeah.
It sounds a little silly, but write your congressman. They're the ones that get them to move.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public with any questions or comments? Roz?
One moment here. We can pass this around if you don't want to come up. Just please state your name and address.
Yeah, Roz Johnson, 826 Lafayette Street. Do you have anything to do with helping this city get on board with affordable housing?
No.
Okay.
Some years back, we had a home rehab grant for $200,000. We managed to get one home completed, and that was rather difficult. We had a very few applicants for the home rehab program. And when I say home rehab program, what I was able to offer was a 50% forgivable loan that converts to a grant in 6 years, and the balance was a deferred loan that you pay back without interest only when you choose to transfer ownership. And I'm running that kind of program for the last 30 years in Middle Township. It's extremely popular. However, the big sticking point when we had the program in Cape May is that if you're in the flood hazard zone, you must have flood insurance. And most of the cities in the flood hazard zone and people were not willing to get flood insurance. And unless you have a mortgage, you're not forced to have flood insurance. A lot of people who were income eligible had paid off homes, and they could say quite reasonably, it's never flooded here, but FEMA says that you're in the flood zone. And a big problem was trying to convince people that to get the money, you had to have flood insurance. And I had many people walk away. And we returned money at that time because we had so few applicants. People just didn't want to get involved. In Middle Township, I'm spending $200,000 a year, year after year after year. I don't work, it's outside my skill set. I don't work on creating rental housing.
Okay.
I'm not in new construction for housing. There are consultants who do affordable housing. It's a bit of a specialty, and I don't get involved with that. But I do get involved a lot with home rehabilitation.
And Roz, we have hired those folks.
Okay.
So as a separate topic, but yeah.
Okay. And possibly maybe it's that they don't want to get flood insurance, it's that they can't afford to get flood insurance.
I agree.
Because it's very expensive.
I agree. Unfortunately, if I could waive that rule,
Right.
I would. And again, it sounds silly. Write your congressman, because they're the ones that made that rule that I have to enforce.
Right.
And, when I'm dealing in Delhaven, where, again, 90% floodplain, I have to tell people again, you have to have flood insurance, or otherwise I can't help you. And I could get the city or the township in big trouble if I ignored that.
Okay.
But,
Okay. And thank you for what you have done. It's
Oh, it's a joy
great,
to work
the
here.
things you've accomplished. Thank you.
anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Jay Newman. I'm at 104 First Avenue. I just wanted to reinforce the need for improvements to that Mount Vernon ramp. It's probably could use about another foot of width if it's possible. We do have some disabled folks that have children that live back in that neighborhood that use the beach all the time. So having improvements to that would be really, really, really good for the folks that need it. As a matter of fact, you can't even get two people to walk by each other. It's that narrow. The beach mats are wonderful. If we could have them down on Beach 29, same location, to go a little bit deeper towards the beach, or maybe connect with the next beach up, which is quite a ways. But if we're looking at to acquire some money and get another block grant, those mats are wonderful for myself. I may look young, but I've got a bad back and I'm in my first retirement. So my wife and I used those mats the other day, and it was really, really good to be able to walk on the beach without having to worry about some of the difficulty of walking in the sand. So really, really nice job. I only have one question. Are there strings attached to this grant money, or is it basically you have to do what you applied to do, and you have to show that it got done?
Number one, you have to do what you said you're going to do. Now, if bids came in very high, for example, you can cut back the project. Of late, the DC has been very accommodating, where some communities, the bids came in high in this inflationary environment, and I've asked for extra money, and I got it. That was heretofore unheard of, but it's happening now. Do what you say you're going to do. Spend the money quickly. Follow the rules. When I say the rules, historic preservation clearance, pay prevailing rate. I think probably for this round that we just got funded, I'm going to probably see a new wrinkle in the grant agreement, which is Build America, Buy America Act is now applicable. So that it means that when we go to bid, we're going to have a clause that says the bidder is going to confirm that they're going to comply with Build America, Buy America, or provide the appropriate waivers. I mean, certain things are only made in Germany. You can't get them anywhere else. Think certain electronics. But generally, there's no continuing obligation. Your obligation ends with completion and closeout. And the name of the game for getting more money is retaining your credibility and doing what you say you're going to do and spend the money quickly. Congress doesn't like anything less than people taking time spending the money. They want to see the projects spent, closed out. They don't want you to have a war chest of money built up, because the federal government just likes to close out fiscal years, and that flows right down to the state level where they press us. And so when we apply again, and thinking forward, the grant agreements will probably come out for this award within a month. They're going to open up a new round of funding. Think December, think November. Do you want, you should all think about, with yourself and Paul and Vince at Engineering Design, do we want to go for more work at the tennis center? Do you want to go for more beach wheelchairs? Do you want to go for more mats or something else, or some combination? But this is probably the time to start thinking what the next project is. The easy answer is get more for the tennis center. We called it phase one with the application, leaving the door open to further phases. So hopefully I answered your question.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we can close public comment. Mark, thank you very much. I mean, these are huge projects for the city and really wonderful upgrades. So we didn't really talk too much about the water transmission line, but that is not something anyone will ever see, but is really important. The work's going on right now. It's about a half mile of pipe, or maybe a little more even, going between the two wells. Again, not necessarily the most interesting project, but extremely important for the future of the city. It allows us to shut down one pump at a time to work on those pumps. Previously, we would have had to have shut down 2 pumps at once, which is huge. Is a huge problem, really. So now we can fix wells separately, which is such an important.
Well, it's always a joy to work here. I'm very proud to work for the city, and whenever I know from friends from Pennsylvania and New York State are coming to Cape May County, I say, you got to get down to, you got to get East Lyle Lane, or you got to get to Rotary Park, or you got to get to Kiwanis Park, or you've got to get to the Promenade to see my projects.
Thank you, Mr. Blauer. Really appreciate it. With that, we can move on to updates, old business, city manager.
Thank you. First, just because I know Chief Ashall is running around crazy for tonight's festivities, I'd asked him to come just to stop in. Over this past couple of weeks, we've had emergency services have been stepping up to the plate on so many fronts, you know, police and fire, and there was just a couple of activities. I just wanted him to kind of brief the city council on some of the activities that he's had to tackle over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Manager. I appreciate that. Pardon my appearance and my sweat. It's been a busy morning. We're out setting up for National Night Out. If everybody's going to come tonight, 5:30 to 8:30, Cape May's finest evening in the city, in my opinion. Anyway, 5:30 to 9:30, 8:30, pardon me, Convention Hall. We're setting up bounce houses and everything up there. For everyone's free to everyone to come. So, hi, Dennis. How are you? The manager asked me to kind of go over a couple little things that went on. You know, we put things on Facebook and kind of give you a real quick blurb of what happens. And, you know, people see police cars running around the town and fire trucks running around. Some explanation sometimes is needed, not to scare anyone, but make sure everybody's abreast of what this city is capable of through the power and the allegiance of the city council, because they help us do what we do every day. So earlier in the month, we had a subject that came out of Blackwood, drove his vehicle down here. It was an attempted homicide up in Blackwood, where he tried to kill his father driving over him with a vehicle. So somehow people navigate the Cape May because it's so pretty. But they drove all the way down here, down the Parkway. A very diligent officer, Patrolman Brzezinski, noticed the vehicle coming through town at a high rate of speed. Window was smashed out. Unfortunately, the father's hat was still on the vehicle where he'd been struck. Big policy for me in this city is not to pursue. We don't want to get the pursuits in this city if we at all costs. So he knew the wherewithal of monitor the vehicle, follow the vehicle in town, try to navigate ahead to the officers that there's a vehicle coming into town at a high rate of speed. He did that very successfully. I feel that action there in and of itself, along with the other officers over there, which I'll mention here, probably saved lives on a very busy afternoon. Many people were in town. Mayor was right on the beachfront there. Justin and I were in a meeting. Deputy City Manager were in a meeting right down the block. I didn't know what was going on until I saw it. Anyway, he ended up at the beachfront, bailing out of the vehicle into the dunes. Anybody's familiar with the boardwalk, our current dunes are pretty high and decent foliage. The one thing that was a benefit to us, quickly, Patrolman Brzezinski radioed that ahead, Captain Bobick, Lieutenant Mazza, and the staff, Sergeant Christinger, Patrolman Denham, Aiden Hoffman, Colt Gibson, again, Patrolman Brzezinski, SLEO Rutherford, SLEO 1 Rutherford, quickly navigated to the area. We cordoned off the dune area that we thought he was in. We threw the drone up, which was, again, purchased by Wawa and the city of Cape May. We use that drone every day, almost every day. Something's going up or we're watching something. Navigated to the beach, trying to find him. He kind of got past the dunes onto the beachfront, made a quick decision to notify the lifeguards and notify the beach taggers. Didn't want to cause a hysteria and close the beach that quickly, but we were close. As soon as he moved, I got to give some credit to the lifeguards that were working that stand right there at that beach. They had the information quickly. It was given out over the radio system. Cam Blevins, Dustin Yin, Giorgio Steele, Eddie Fucci, and Lieutenant Wyatt were quick to notice someone that didn't look like the rest of them, wearing all black, sitting on the beach, digging in the sand. The drone was able to get over and give us eyes on that subject and quickly allow us to get to him and make that arrest. He did have a knife on him. He was burying the knife in the father's hat in the dirt. The officers made a very successful arrest there with the assistance of everyone there. I had Cape May Fire Department, the Deputy Chief Eck was there. His staff was there helping us out. So, you know, a lot of things go on in Cape May that people are like, well, why is all this happening? But that was one of the events that happened. I give credit to Patrolman Brzezinski for being very mindful and the rest of the staff that was working that day along with that. So I think that action probably saved lives, because if he had whipped through town the way he was driving, I think we would have more of a problem. So he made it to the beachfront from the Parkway, so that's too far for my liking. We can't control everything, but we do. Later on in the week, I was on the phone with the manager a lot this week. A lot of things I didn't put on Facebook. Cape May Elementary had a roofing company there. There was an incident that happened out of state in Virginia. One of the roofers there had assaulted a young woman. That triggered the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office, ICE, Federal Marshal's Fugitive Task Force, and New Jersey State Police Teams Unit, which I give high regard to and applause to for notifying us quickly that subject was in our town. They asked for our assistance again, with police officers and our drone. This technology that we have with the drone is moving us forward into giving us eyes ahead of moving people into locations and basically making a smooth transition to make an arrest. So I credit those people that I mentioned for coming into town. Pretty much no one knew it happened because we were so swift and smooth about doing it. I'm very proud of the way that happened, because in a busy summer season, we don't need all that chaos going on. So they were mindful, the state police units, the task force were mindful of, you know, Paul and my conversation, the city manager, pardon me, our conversation was make it smooth, make it quick, make it, you know, make it safe. And that's when I called him to notify him, that's what he said, and that's what happened. Our officers, again, Sergeant Cole and his squad, Danny Martinez, all the officers working that day, again, Lieutenant Mazza and Captain Bobick and Lieutenant Walker were there quickly, had two command posts running at the same time. So busy. Again, Cape May Fire Department was at the ready if we needed them as well. So we work very well with those agencies. So I'm very proud of that. And, you know, as you see by the monthly that you get in your packet there, we've been busy. Lieutenant Mazza, who's in charge of the patrol division, I'm very proud that he's, you know, kind of, he's highly respected in the patrol division, so they kind of look after, you know, I'm on him, he's on them to get the numbers up. So when people ask why were there so many parking tickets and whatever, I don't look at the parking tickets per se. I look at the 8 DWIs that they managed to gather, and they're already on track for August with 3 DWIs already for August. Moving forward, I'm not proud of the DUIs. I'm proud of the arrest for the DUIs and the careful monitoring of that. And then, you know, the amount of summonses, 300 plus summonses given. A lot of those were LSVs. A lot of those were bike stops as well. So we've been, you know, with Maureen and myself, Mr. Yeager with the bike safety and the LSVs. We've also partnered up with Lower Township because they're seeing an influx of LSVs goes over into Lower Township. So we're trying to closely work with them and get that squared away and kind of control that. So we're doing our best there. But lastly, I just want to talk about the lightning strike. If you haven't already, if I missed that, I apologize. But give thanks again to the manager's office, both Deputy City Manager Riggs and Manager Dietrich. different than my last set of go-around with this lightning strike. It was very comfortable working, not comfortable, but knowing that they had my back when I was up against the wall with the city hall being affected, and I feel kind of at fault for the tower, but it is what it is. It's something that God created, and we just had to fix. But I will say that the day of happening, the day of the incident, everybody kind of moved into a general order. Aaron and Brian Turner there, they kind of navigated everyone out of the building. They worked along with that safely and made sure that everyone's out of the building. We're working on better procedures to do so. We'll have that in place very soon. But I will say that the recovery and the insurance part of this was made easier by the assistance of the manager's office that was very attentive. I don't say that because they're sitting in the room. I would tell you if they weren't. And like I said, we're making changes. We've got good people in place to put better grounding on this building and the tower. Going to cost a little bit of money, but something probably should have been done last time. Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. That's incorrect, because it does. I do have a busy day, so if there's any questions, I can answer them. Again, I want to thank council for always having our back and support, and your first responders in this town are one of the finest. Also, your Department of Public Works, I'm calling them all the time. I give them applause, but they're out there pulling generators and different things to make tonight very, very good. So we have good weather. The bubble is going to hold, and we're going to go from there.
Chief, just by chance,
Yeah.
you said it, I was walking the beach front there,
You always are.
and I was getting some trash out of the dunes that the
He went
gentleman
into.
ran through.
Yep.
And I didn't see him, but I did see when all the police officers started coming around. I first saw Sergeant Christinger and said, "What's going on?" And he's obviously I didn't want to get in his way or anything,
Yep.
but he said, "We're looking for somebody," and the quickness of the actions that I witnessed firsthand, I just want to report were excellent.
Appreciate it.
That drone was up in the air. I don't know if
About
you want to say
10
what
minutes,
the
yeah.
capabilities of that
Yeah.
drone is, but it was such an important tool that was up in the air within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And as anyone can imagine, on a busy day, trying to look for one person, and I know the description that I got was
Completely
terrible
different than we were looking for.
from somebody, so that didn't really help. But it took some time, but everyone stuck around and made sure that they caught the person. And
Yep.
it wasn't easy because I was there watching, and I was really shocked that you actually found the person. So
Yeah, he bled into the crowd. He was reported to have a blue shirt, khaki pants, and long hair. Nothing of the
and he
sort.
had none of those.
Black,
So-
all black, short
Yeah.
hair, curly hair, beard.
Right.
Picture wasn't the same, but I will give applause to the patrol division that was out there quickly. Like I was in a meeting and I listened. I can tell their voices when something's not right. And I said that to them. And I'm like, something's not right. Anyway, Sergeant Christinger set up, command post, had a perimeter before I even stepped out of Convention Hall, and that's the applause I give to them, because with a beach that's busy and the beachfront, shutting down a beachfront in the middle of August is not good.
Anyone who witnessed that would have to be impressed with the protocols and everything that went into place. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Corey?
If I could just
Yes.
chime in, being down there firsthand, Chief, excellent job.
Thank you.
We're in the meeting. He is listening to the radio for his patrolman and, monitoring the situation, and just his attentiveness to get out there. And, when we look down there and all the hatches are up in the back and he's in the whiteboard, we said, oh, something's going on. But Chief, really great
Thank
job
you.
and just witnessing it firsthand. Just thanks.
We practice on the little ones. I'm actually honored to be a part of this group with this unified command that we have with Chief Coulter and Deputy Chief Eck and Chief Harry Back. When things are going wrong, missing people, missing kids, we have a lot of that. That's not even on the list here. That we had 2 or 3 of those last month, and we had a missing adult male just Saturday evening that we found in Ocean City. Drone was up all night looking for him on the beach. So. We definitely work well together, and I definitely, there may be a time I come here and report things didn't go so well, but I'm very proud that this city's first responders and OEM, our OEM team is first rate. Frank McCluskey, Deputy Chief Eck, and myself. I'll pat my own self on the back for that one. But again, like I said, connecting with Aaron and Brian and the rest of the team here in Department of Public Works, top notch. So,
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. And I just wanted to have him come in. I know he's got busy, and I also gives him a little time to spotlight National Night Outs tonight, so everybody come out for that. But just a lot of activity going on, and just the things that the patrol division, everything top to bottom, they're very professional and providing an excellent service for the city, and keeping us and our residents and visitors safe is real important. So I just wanted him to come highlight some of the activities that he had. So thanks, Chief. First, next I had was Sea Grant. The executive director of Sea Grant came down to present our plaque for being voted the second best beach in Cape May County. Seems like we also had an award. USA Today, if you didn't see, rated us the 4th best beach in the Northeast area. So seems like no matter which kind of poll you're seeing out there, NJ.com, all the different polls, we're in the, if we're not the first one, we're in the top rated beaches, but, so not just countywide, statewide, but, regionally, it just goes to show the team that we have here working in Cape May City to do what they can, and our residents and our business community. It's a team effort, so it's not just the city, it's all our business owners, our residents that really make it what it is, and it's just great to see that we're getting some of that recognition. So we'll get this hung up somewhere here, and find all of our best of beaches, and we'll probably have to have a best of beaches wall pretty soon as we move forward. The next thing, Chief kind of did touch on it on the lightning status. I just wanted to give council a little bit on how we're moving forward. So on the claim side for the JIF claims, we're approaching about a $200,000, maybe going to be just over $200,000 claim for damage. What really put us up high was the solar system on the roof here. It got affected, so we're going to have, that was a $125,000 portion of the claim. That really is what bolstered and pushed that number up high. We've been, between Chief Ashall and myself, we've really reached out to some professionals to help give us some guidance. So we actually already had the guy come out on the tower to reground that tower, and going to be doing some implementation. And this is work. Now moving for, this is work that we're going to do as protective measures for both the tower and City Hall moving forward. So we're going to spend around $51,500 to do protective work. They already started doing that work. We're going to have a company come in, put lightning rods and ground wire. It'll kind of rim the roof, and then they'll have connections that go down to the ground, and there again there'll be a ring around the ground, grounding it into the ground properly, grounding into all of the utility connections that come into the building, all of our electrical systems. They're going to double ground both the network cables that or the antenna wires that go from the tower into the building, and just make sure everything is properly grounded and secure. So I think after we spend that additional $51,000, nothing, as Chief said, lightning is probably going to strike in this area a third time, but I think we'll be much better protected within the city hall for that next event. So that's kind of the status where we go. We should be submitting all of our final claims later this month, and that should be I think the JIF is going to be reviewing the claims possibly at their September meeting, and processing and getting that back to us so we can get reversed. The next, sure everybody has gotten their tax bills by now, unless they were in that slow spot where the U.S. Postal Service maybe didn't deliver their, but the tax bills, and I'm sure everybody was pleasantly surprised to see that their tax bill went down. So the overall tax bill went down. The rate was down by 0.17, so it's about 1.7 of a cent reduction in the overall tax. That's not just the city tax where we, didn't increase, but between school tax, county tax, and everything, the overall tax rate was down in the city. So I think everybody had a happy August mail delivery to see that. There is obviously the tax due is delayed. It's not finally due on the 11th, so there is an extension based on that. I believe it's towards the end of the month, and it is posted. I think it was noted on your bill, as well as it is posted on the website as far as when the extended due date for your tax bills. And one more set of good news. Received confirmation from the Office of Historic Preservation Office in the state that the July 31st New Jersey Historic Register placed our nomination for the district for the ethnic heritage black nomination was accepted, so that is now officially on the New Jersey Register of Places, and last week it was submitted to the National Park Service to be included in the National Register, so we hope to hear back. But typically, once the state kind of has approved it and moved it along, it usually gets approved at the national level, so I'm sure within a couple months, definitely by the end of the year, we'll receive word that nomination and that petition will be accepted by the National Park Service. And that's all I think I have for this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager. City Solicitor?
I just have a brief update. Our Welcome Center lease.
Mr. Gillen Schwartz.
Our Welcome Center lease with NJ Transit is up in 2025 at the end of April. And through our discussions with NJ Transit in connection with the resolution of the Seashore Lines litigation, we made some good contacts up there. And in advance, well in advance of that date, I wanted to get in touch with them to coordinate an extension of that lease. And so I received a positive indication today via email from my contact at NJ Transit, and they're advancing it to the legal team there. And I hope to have a proposal to the city for an extension of that lease in the coming weeks, and well in advance of that April 2025 end date. So that's a brief update. I don't have anything concrete yet, but I expect that we'll have a further update in the coming weeks.
What's the length of the lease?
The current lease started in the 80s and extended for 40 years. So that takes us, and the discussion with them was, I think the relationship has been successful and the city has made substantial improvements to that area, including the parking lot, the recent signage that went up. So the longer the better was the idea, but they have their own kind of framework for how they issue leases, and they have their own limitations. I think it's 20 and maybe 25 years. So I expect the proposal from them to come back something like that. But once it comes in, I will certainly share that with council, and we'll be reviewing that.
Thank you.
Just a quick question as a follow-up on that. The Revolutionary Rail, that's totally separate, or is that in conjunction with that?
That's separate. They have their
That's
own
yeah,
lease
'cause-
for the rail area. The lines actually is what they have a lease on, which is separate and apart from what we have.
And then they have the internal part of the Welcome Center, a
Which-
small portion of it.
Pursuant to a separate lease with the city that we executed this year. So just to be clear, the proposed extension of that lease would cover the resolved area, which just excludes that
That small
that
closet.
200 or so feet of line outside. And it would reserve the city's ability to lease, excess portions in the interior.
Okay,
And we have an option to extend that lease, provided we secure our own lease for the entire
the
property.
entire, okay. Thank you.
Great. Anything else, Mr. Solicitor?
That's it.
Okay, on to ordinances for introduction, 542.
Yes, we have 542-2024, an ordinance establishing metered parking hours at the City Hall parking lot and confirming grace period for parking in relation to official business.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments, council? I know a couple of you asked me some questions.
I have a comment, if I may.
Sure.
I'm not going to vote in favor of this. Like many of you in the audience, I don't know if you drove here, but a lot of us that's table did not drive here because we often can't get parking spots in the parking lot. And my opinion is that I don't want people loitering in the parking lot, especially at night, coming from bars or restaurants. I think I just don't want people in the parking lot. I think it's not good for them to be around the city of vehicles. I know Cape May is a safe town, but in other towns, where people have access to parking lots, people vandalize city vehicles, And I think until we increase the amount of parking in the parking lot and get cameras up, that's when I'll be comfortable with pursuing this personally.
So just to comment, couldn't that occur now? Because they could park there for free?
What do you mean?
That, well, if they come into the parking lot now, that having the parking meters doesn't negate the fact that they could park there and
Well,
be
Well, no,
loitering.
That's a good point, because in this ordinance, it says that people will be allowed to park for free for a half hour for city business. Now, that means a police officer has to be out there every half hour checking on vehicles. And I think that's not practical at all. And again, and if there was an emergency in the city of Cape May where we need to call in police or fire, I want them to be able to park somewhere, in an emergency at night, in the middle of the day, whatever it is. And frankly, I hate parking in the parking lot because I feel like I'm taking an employee's spot who's might be out on lunch or doing some kind of duty for the city. I don't want to make them have to, they work here,
Quick question for you, Councilman Meyer. And I did speak to the manager about this, trying to, work through this, this ordinance. And I'm thinking, is there a way to roll it out maybe on just a weekend?
That's what I
Part at this point. So, yeah, and then, doing it for the weekend because we do have meetings here, and also the start and end time. Because now we're starting prior to our regular meter starting. There are no meter maids, or meter, people that are out there that are doing anything. This starts at 7:30 and ends at 10:30 at night. Starts at 7:30 in the morning. So I'm not sure how that will actually roll out, and making sure that people leave if we do it over a weekend, making sure that people leave on Sunday night and they're not staying. Overnight, exactly. So Monday morning, when you have city employees coming in, then it wouldn't be an issue. So I don't know, it's a tough issue.
Can I, just to add a little context, I think I got a couple emails complaining about parking tickets that members of the public received for parking in a municipal lot. And to be honest with you, I totally agreed with their complaints. They were upset that they got a parking ticket in the municipal lot while it was not, it was a function, I'll just say that the function was for the Colonial House, which is a city-owned property. You could argue whether it's city function or not. That wasn't really the concern for me. I just felt for a taxpayer getting a parking ticket while in the municipal lot. So I'm just adding some context to this. I also think it's kind of ridiculous to have a big empty parking lot on a Saturday night when everyone's looking for parking. And Shane, your concern, I totally agree with, and you have to have spaces available for an emergency, an OEM operation. So I think, one, everyone knows here that this fall we're going to be bidding out the repaving of the parking lot. Of course, that includes the street to the side here between the firehouse and the library. It's got some big dirt openings, and I know it's a bit of a mess, but we're almost there. It's just after Labor Day. We're going to be ready to go. But as part of that, the design that has yet to be shown, I believe, but it has approximately 8 more parking spaces in the municipal lot. Everybody knows how important this is going to be, especially for the library now. It's becoming more difficult to find parking on a regular day. So we are trying to address a problem. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I don't even know exactly what the solution is, and I don't have a strong opinion. I do feel that, an empty parking lot when the town is packed is kind of ridiculous. I think, as Shane pointed out, the importance of making sure, the red curbs are very well defined for our firehouse, that if you may come in and see only 5 of those spaces taken up, it'll kind of say, why are there so many fire parking spaces? It's for the event of emergency, if a lot of people need to come in. So I think we should have that conversation, but I do think, and then nobody wants to be in the position of adding Park Mobile or parking meters to our municipal lot. However, we're getting people staying overnight on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then they're there on Monday morning, and they're not being moved around. So the idea, and I'm not saying it's a perfect one, but the idea is make people pay, and then they will move their car on their own. So it's self-enforcement, frankly. The idea is not, and I just want to be clear about this, to charge taxpayers trying to come in and pay their taxes or come in to pay a permit. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to move along.
And that's really when you see, that's when you have paid parking in areas, and that's why you'll see a lot of downtown business district areas that have metered parking is to create that turnover, and they come in and they stay. They don't stay for long periods of time because you want the turnover, whether they're going into the library or they're going in to shoot, hey, maybe the Acme lot's full and they just want to run over to the Acme, or they're going over to the Harriet Tubman Museum, or, they're doing something not necessarily municipal, in the city hall getting a permit, but that charging and having a metered space is to promote turnover and stuff like that.
Could
And
we
obviously there's
limit
going to
it
be.
to 3 hours like we do in some of the, I mean, limited to 3 hours. It doesn't, allow for overnight. That could be stipulated, no overnight parking if we felt that that was important. I've also seen, I've pulled in myself, and people who are not here on city business, knowing that they can park there, pull in and park, and then they're walking into town.
Yes.
And I have been out there a couple of times where people who were trying to come in to do city business are sitting in the middle of the lot saying, I can't park. I've actually gone into the police and said, this car, this registration just pulled in, they're not in here. They walked over, and went, and just said, could you go out there? And if you don't want to ticket them, at least put a note because there are people in the parking lot now.
And we have had, so over the last 2 months, we have asked Chief to increase patrol. So that's why, those people that were doing an event at the Colonial House, and that's where we're going to have to have better coordination. Harry at the Colonial House should have probably notified us so that, hey, you're having an event, so that we can notify police and say, hey, these people are having an event. Just like, when the church was having Vacation Bible School or services on Sunday, they communicated with us. We let Chief know. We had a special placard for the church, and their parishioners put something out on their cars to say, hey, during Vacation Bible School, don't ticket us why they're in the, using the lot after city employees have left. So I think there's ways around. It's just figuring those little nuances out.
Yeah, so I don't have a good answer for this. I know it's a difficult problem, but I think I'd mentioned to you earlier, Paul, and thinking about it more, I'm actually more concerned about when we get to December 31st, because between then and April 1st, anybody can legitimately park anywhere in that parking lot. And that's what they're going to believe, because the meters are turned off, and we as employees of the city are going to have a difficult time finding parking spaces, because I can tell you that people
Mike,
living over here are going to park.
Can you point to, is that, you're saying that within the ordinance, you're pointing to the fact of, it says April 1st to December 31.
Right,
That's the only
so, yeah, so after December 31 to April 1, and you may have an answer to come up with that. Maybe something changes entirely, or signs restricted, but we're right back to the same problem. Again, the real problem is in city employees, especially, and people wanting to come to a council meeting, a crowded council meeting. They're going to have a hard time parking out here, because people can legitimately park their cars, and they can park it for overnight and for as long as they want.
Yeah.
One
So
other,
find a way to fix that.
right.
Yeah.
And
Limit
then,
it to 3 hours and no overnight parking. I mean, and if they're in the lot overnight, then, wouldn't that be it?
Yep.
Yeah.
There is a 3-hour limit proposed in this ordinance.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
I don't know about, I don't think anybody can park over.
But we don't want people paying that are coming to a council meeting.
No.
And often in the wintertime,
But-
that is
but
after.
What we, just like for regular, like for this afternoon's meeting, chief knows to distribute, our they work with our calendar, just like they don't, when we have an environmental commission meeting in the day, environmental commission members park in our lot.
But so just.
So parking enforcement's not out there during our known scheduled meetings.
Okay, so on
enforcing-
on Tuesday at 7 PM, people are here in the wintertime.
Correct.
They're not going to come out.
They're
to
not going to
tickets.
come out in tickets because we have.
Because they'll ask for the meeting to go back into session so they can come back for public comment about the tickets.
Right.
Which I would as well.
Yes, but we have to do that now because right now, the lot is signed as permit parking only.
Yeah, it is.
So unless you can legitimately show that you had official business at the city. So there's already coordination with parking enforcement on, when we have meetings and those kinds of things, that we don't go out and enforce that. So it's really just allowing that. And I've walked out there and, I saw a family getting back in their car with a stack of library books in the lot. I mean, they were fortunate, they could have gotten the parking ticket because they weren't in City Hall doing city business. They were over at the library, but, they were in our lot where they could have gotten a parking ticket as the rules sit today.
No, I don't like that. I mean, does council not agree with that? I mean, people need to park somewhere for the library.
And that's one of the reasons why we opened up St. John, so we've told the people at the library,
Right.
hey, when they ask, hey, where do I park for the library? We're pointing them to St. John. So, besides the parking on the frontage of St. John, we kind of opened up Lafayette Street Park in the grass area. So there's plenty of parking in a short 1 block
Mr.
from the
Dietrich,
library.
the portion of the lot on Washington Street in front of, next to the museum, the firefighter museum, that is not restricted to firefighters, I don't believe.
That is.
Yeah, it
That
does.
is
Is
restricted. to
both
fire.
sides of it?
Yes.
The smaller lot is.
That whole lot?
That whole lot. It has a sign as you would approach into that saying fire.
Fire only.
That whole lot, and then the whole side on the firehouse side. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
No, when both sides, as you would pull in, is open to municipal permit parking.
So it's just the lot,
Just the side lot that is designated for fire personnel.
I think the first thing, personally, just to throw out there, is making sure OEM and fire, police are well-marked and have as much as they need. After that, though, I just think it is a little crazy to have an open parking lot on a Friday or a Saturday night
Or even in the evenings.
before 10:30
During the week.
or something.
In the weekends.
I understand Mr. Meyer's concerns in regards to staying overnight, late night type events. We don't necessarily want somebody coming back from a bar at 2 a.m., but someone just simply going to dinner or a walk on the mall. I mean, you all see Sturdy Savings Bank is packed. They don't mind that, frankly, is my understanding.
I mean, then limiting it to no overnight parking, I mean, if we had concerns about time frame, might be a way to address that. Still get the utilization, but not be concerned about people being in a lot, that we don't want them there, and we
What
don't
about
want them
just
there in the morning. Yeah.
What about just Sunday overnight? Because we do have, there are issues where, people are parking overnight.
Yeah, but if there's no overnight parking during the week, then that way, I mean,
Yeah, we
that's the concern any
See,
day of the week.
I
Council,
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The effective date of this ordinance would be October 1st. So we're missing the whole summer anyway. It's not going to be officially enacted until
Right,
after summer.
right.
So my thing is, why are we rushing to do this in August now?
Okay, so can I-
Why can't we do this after we get the parking lot
Like
resurfaced and
resurfaced,
redesigned?
relined.
okay, can I make a
And
suggestion?
we're getting cameras in this packet right now. We're awarding, security cameras. I just think the carriage is in front of the horse right now, that's all.
Can I make a suggestion? A, let's hear from the public now and just get some of their thoughts. But B, I'd like to ask for 2 volunteers from council to work through this to bring it back to the table. So I guess, A, I'd be making a request for a motion to table. B, ask for 2 volunteers to work through some of these, also based on public comment, and then bring it back to the table.
So Deputy Mayor Baldwin and I will volunteer
that
to work
okay?
together. Yeah. Are you okay with
Mr.
that?
Meyer?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I mean, my mind can be changed, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Perfect. All right,
Either
so
way.
can I have and we will go to public comment. Can I have a motion to table?
I'll make the motion.
And
Do I
I'll
have
second.
do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember McDade,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin, Mayor Mullick.
Yes, and thank you for volunteering for that. With that, we will open it up for public comment on this ordinance.
Please still state your name and address for the record.
Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia Avenue. I just want to remind council, when the firehouse was under construction, we had a lot of the contractors parking there. And what we had was a lot of the employees couldn't find parking. This is going to be the same thing. The employees are going to go out for lunch break, come back, and somebody's going to park there because $1.50 an hour is a lot cheaper than, I think they're charging $5 an hour in the Acme parking lot. And when you say 3-hour minimum, they're just going to go in and redo it for another 3 hours. So the idea of a municipal parking lot is to allow for employee parking. You're not going to have employee parking because anybody that moves for an employee, they're going to come back, they're not going to have a spot to park at, which was happening when we had construction at the firehouse. And what are they going to do? Come back, I couldn't find a spot to park? Okay, say park in the Acme, and then you're going to have to pay for their parking in the Acme parking lot? You're not going to be getting that much during the week for as many employees that you have parking in that lot. Basically, it takes up almost that whole lot. So what are you going to have? A couple spots that are going to be available for the public? And that should be for people that are coming in to do city business. They can pull in and pull out, and then the next person can come in and out. I don't see that there's a benefit for the amount of money that you're going to get for the fact that you're going to take parking away for the employees in the city.
I think money should not be it should only be a deterrent, essentially, for people who may be coming and going. I want to know your opinion. What about after 5 p.m.?
Well, as a person that's on a couple boards, right? Again, we're going to be coming in and not be able to find parking because people are going to park for $1.50 an hour versus $5 an hour.
Okay.
And you're a volunteer.
And I'm a volunteer, so then where am I going to park? It's not like, oh, I just parked down the street. No, because there is no parking down the street to park. I mean, I already ride my bike to the zoning board meeting. I rode my bike here. Why? Because I knew I wasn't going to be able to find a spot out there. And
I ride my bike.
right. So, I mean, and then to say, oh, they can put a sign in their car. It doesn't matter if they can put a sign in their car because there's not going to be a spot for them to park in to put the sign up.
Stacy, what is your thought about weekends? I'm just curious.
I mean, weekends, I see where you're coming from on weekends. Again, I know a lot of churches park in there for the services. So now you're going to be having them pay for parking in there, which probably the people that are coming to the churches are all taxpayers. So, what's the reason for that? And then also, most likely in the wintertime, the Acme is free anyway So you're going to have people pay for the city parking lot, which then it might be a deterrent since it would be paying. But I mean, the effort that's going to go into having to enforce this, because like you said, it starts at 7:30 in the morning.
No.
They're not usually even at 10:30 at night. Now you've gone half hour over what our other meters are. Then people are going to say, oh, I thought it was done at 10 o'clock because every other meter is done at 10 o'clock. Oh, I didn't think they started till 10 because all the other meters didn't start till 10.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see where it's being utilized maybe by other businesses in the area, but are we looking to help these businesses with parking? Is that one of the reasons? I don't understand. I mean, I understand there's a couple spots there for weekends, but I don't always see a totally empty parking lot on the weekends. But And then how do you get people out on Monday morning for the employees to come in?
I know. Okay,
Thank you.
to think about.
Anyone else from the public on this ordinance?
Mr. Manager, do you know if there's already an SOP for police and fire, if they need to be called in, where to park, such as along the alleyway or anything like that?
I don't know if they have an SOP.
Just curious, it might be something that
I mean, because,
should be thought about, you know?
Because, I mean, Patrol Division reports over at West Cape May for police.
Right.
So, half of the normal force goes over to West Cape May anyway, so they wouldn't be reporting necessarily here. It's only the summer officers that report here.
Okay.
Anyone else
Councilman
wishing to speak from the public?
One second.
Thank you. Dennis Crowley, 806 Lafayette. I just had a quick informational question. Has anybody researched or is aware of the relationship of the accommodation, the restaurant and the B&B, which is abutting this lot, that they would be assuming that's their parking lot?
We have continuous discussions with them about making sure their people that stay there know that this is not a parking lot for them. So it's a routine conversation we have to have with them.
So you've had that conversation?
It's a routine conversation with them, yeah.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause
But
that would exacerbate that.
I think what should be discussed, I'm not trying to promote this, but you see an open parking lot on a Saturday night, a lot of people are trying to go to that restaurant. If the taxpayers are making $2 an hour, or whatever, it's $1.25, I think, in this, why not, is my question. So and there are answers to that question, too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying, why not work with our neighbors on something like that?
I also, the conversation I had with the city manager last night, I asked him for his permission to ask employees of their opinion of it, because I'm sure they have an opinion.
Yeah. Good. All right, well, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate, who did we have working on it?
Deputy Mayor Bulb and I are
Okay.
going to work on it. And what we can do is try and coalesce all of these different scenarios. And this may wind up being a very narrow window when we would be applying this. And that may just be a test case to see how it goes. But, and it might be after some of the things that Councilman Meyer mentioned about when the repaving would occur, et cetera. But it might be an opportunity for us to evaluate and figure out, okay, in this narrow window of time, making sure that we understand the implications, both the positive and the negative. But we can start.
I know you'll do this, but just to state the obvious, I think you should certainly work with the fire chief, police chief, obviously the city manager, you have to. But I would also look at the plan that Vince Orlando has approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see if there's anything, now that we should change to that.
Well, Mayor Mullick, what I was going to mention is I am the council liaison on OEM. So we have a meeting coming up. I'm going to talk with Chief Eck and, Mr. Riggs and Mr. Dietrich are on there along with Chief and have these conversations around making sure that OEM's covered and understanding what their process would be from a procedural standpoint also, so.
I just finally add, which has nothing to do necessarily with this ordinance, but I do think the importance of being able to put 8 to 10 parking spaces next to the AME church for the use of the library is becoming very evident to me. We have a lot of handicap and elderly folks who aren't handicapped but have a tough time getting to the library. We need close parking. So we're going to have to come up with a solution to that. I think one of them is the demolition of the old CCA building next to the AME church, which HPC unanimously approved, and I think hopefully we can move forward with. Bigger topic, I know, but I just mentioned that because, look, parking's going to be extremely important for the library. With that, we can move on to the consent agenda. I tried to do that about half an hour ago, but
One more thing before the consent agenda. We do have the public portion on the resolutions listed on the consent agenda. If anybody has a public comment on the resolutions only.
Please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia Avenue. I just have a quick question about Resolution 219, it's authorizing a bid for hardware supply and building material supply. I guess my question, is this like, I see a lot of city employees in, Swains going in and out for screws and everything. Is this going to affect that relationship and the quickness that we can get things where if they're going to have to go up to like a Lowe's or a Home Depot?
It's to allow us to continue to do that. So right now, because of our purchases, last year, we were coming up and exceeding the bid threshold that we need to do this. So in order for us to continue that relationship, to be able to go to Swains or somewhere close, we need to do this bid.
Okay, because to me, if they had to keep going up to like Lowe's or Home Depot, that's a lot of time wasted for projects where they need.
That's why we're doing this, and we'll be working with Swains to help them with the process.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Roush?
Could we, Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. Could we have an explanation about the two ordinances dealing with the cameras?
The resolutions?
Yeah, 221 and 222.
221, 222.
Yeah.
The one resolution is to award the bid to award a contract based on a negotiated price after we were unsuccessful on a second time bidding the project from this year's capital or last year's capital funds to install security cameras at City Hall, Public Works, and Convention Hall.
How many cameras is that, Paul?
I don't recall the number.
Mr. Roush, I did ask, this is phase one. I believe there's a second phase.
And that's what the second resolution is for. So I would say at least a half a dozen at each location. It also included at City Hall some security measures for access control at the building.
Mr. Roush, I did ask for a presentation on this resolution from the police department. The timing was not good in regards to the National Night Out being tonight. However, the chief did say he'd be in for a presentation on this resolution at the next meeting.
And then the second resolution is to go out to bid for phase two, which would include, and when you read the specifications, it includes Beach Avenue, the Washington Street Mall, Kiwanis Park, Lifeguard Headquarters, and the two bridges.
Don't misunderstand my questioning. I'm really in favor of the cameras. I think they're a great, not only deterrent, but there have been so many examples of the success that the cameras have in finding out whoever did whatever. What about, concern about the maintenance? Is that going to be a separate contract?
Yes. Or I don't even know if it would be a contract, because it probably wouldn't be up above the bid threshold, so it just would be normal procurement process with the vendor.
And what about the cameras that are currently in existence? Are they functional?
The current cameras at City Hall will be tied into this new system. I believe the cameras at
City manager, some of those conversations I think could be held in private personally, but you can answer his question to what you think is important.
I believe Public Works in Convention Hall, I believe they're being replaced with new cameras.
I hope you understand some of the.
Yeah, I can. Can I also assume that there's going to be the ability to save the information that these cameras have?
The current cameras and future cameras have a recording ability, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have one other comment. There's a under the bills, there's a I don't have the number right in front of me. There's a bill for CETO, and is that for that flybridge boat that's out there?
That is.
And what is the status of that boat now?
We're doing multiple processes in parallel. We're trying to work with the owner to have him remove it. We're working with the state police and having it deemed an abandoned boat so that we can get control of the boat, but there's a statutory time period that we're waiting for that. We're also working with our insurance and possibly submitting a claim for that because it was to prevent a environmental spill into the harbor. So we're working on multiple fronts on that, but several of them have statutory requirements that we'll hopefully be able to take action before the end of the month.
Because it is what I think they call an attractive nuisance. I like to go and have a sandwich and look out over that water, and I've seen the kids, circling and looking at that thing, and it would be something that would be of interest to anyone.
And Mr. Roush, we had one on Sunset/Higbee's Beach that became a big fire because of exactly what you're saying. So let me just real quick, I'm not trying to pat everybody on the back, but the volunteer harbor masters really did a nice job. They saw that it was sinking, which it was, and it was ready to sink, and immediately contacted the city manager and Sea Tow, the Coast Guard, and towed it in. Not only did they tow it in, and one of the reasons it's more expensive is all of the fuel was pumped out of it and all of those things. We all know from experience how much it would have cost had it sank, and also had that oil spilled out, it would have been much, much more. I think the goal here is get it out of there as quickly as possible. So I know you're saying that, and we agree. But also, we want this bill to ultimately be sent to the owner of the boat. We'll see how successful we are on that. We can't make any guarantees, but we thought it would be negligent to just allow that boat to just sink into the harbor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on resolutions today? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Council, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And just for the record, of course, 218 has been deleted from this consent agenda.
Ready for roll call?
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Any new business, city solicitor?
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
City manager?
Just would want to update council. We're getting ready to resurface Washington Street in the fall as part of the this year's paving project. And I was asked to look at whether or not we could increase the number of parking spaces if we moved the parking from one side, between Madison and Ocean, from the side that it currently is on, and move it to the other side. When I did the evaluation, we could pick up about maybe 10 to 12 spaces. However, there's several locations that create functional issues. The first functional issue is the nursing spots out in front of senior housing. The next functional issue is the parking for the post office would then be across the street, and then everybody wanted to visit. We're creating a lot of pedestrian crossing conflicts across the street. And then but the Washington Inn and the funeral home, having that parking inside of them is going to, mess up kind of, not that how the valet works at the Washington Inn is perfect, but it would kind of help it to the extent that it would then be a loading area, not in the middle of the street. So you could almost consider that a potential positive, where they wouldn't be in the lane of travel as they try to move their valet. Though I think their valet is pretty robust in trying to get the cars off the street as quick as possible, though it does create some delays occasionally. I'm not sure with all that whether or not finding 10 spaces is, that is a lot of spaces, but those conflicts are pretty hefty conflicts, and I don't, so I just was bringing it back to council just to, if we're going to do it, we kind of have to make a decision more about public notification before we would actually do it than anything.
I'm not going to make an opinion on that. I think it's a tough one. But I will say, I think one of the questions that should be really looked at is, for everyone's information, what we're talking about is when you're coming into town, you see, when you're coming into town on Washington, of course, the parking is on your right side, okay? You get to Madison Avenue, right, the traffic light, you cross Madison, and now the parking is on your left, so it switches. And we all know that kind of maneuvering that you have to do. The yellow line essentially moves almost one cart lane over once you cross Madison. One thing I would just throw out there for conversation is maybe Madison is not the time to do that cart crossover because it's such a heavily trafficked and quick area. That's all I would add to it. And looking at it, there may be another location that, hey, you want to slow people down anyway, have a.
But I will say, if we move it to any other location besides Madison, the geometric loss of spaces that we would lose because of the transition that we would have to design to transition over a lane of traffic, because you'd have to do that transition in both directions, any potential gain would be lost in that transition.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sightline trend?
well, no, because I can't just move traffic over and have them do that little lane shift. In Madison Avenue, they kind of do the lane shift through the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that transition, and that distance is built into the intersection. I'm not going to comment on how it meets or doesn't meet the standards, but because it's been there historically for probably as long as anybody can remember. But so if I moved it mid-block, whether it's north or south of Madison, it would make it, I would have to do a proper lane transition, which everybody can see when you see the different lane transitions at different locations on highways that you travel around in. It would take me 3-4 car lengths, parking spaces, to create a transition. So
You would be negating.
I would probably lose 8 parking spaces, 8 to 10 parking spaces to create a transition if it wasn't done at Madison Avenue. So any gain of 10 parking spaces, so say I didn't do it at Madison and I moved it north or south, I'm going to lose 10 parking spaces in doing it. So it wouldn't, in moving it anywhere besides Madison, would negate any benefit of the parking
Well,
spaces
the other area
gained.
that currently the flow is in front of the Physic Estate. The trolleys go there, and especially when they have events and large events, that's the drop-off point. So now you'd be dropping them off on the other side of the street and them having to get back down, so which would mean the trolleys would be going further out and coming back.
And I
in.
wasn't,
So
and
it's
I wasn't
another
looking,
drop-off.
and I did not look at examining changing it.
Not that.
I was not looking at Madison to Ocean. I was looking at Madison to Ocean. I did not look at, what would be the change of parking if I moved it from Madison to Sydney and moved it over to the other side. I did not do that analysis. I looked at it only in the other side.
I know the fact is, I think one of our toughest intersections is Washington and Madison. So all I'm saying, regardless of flip-flopping the parking, I think when the lines are drawn, maybe they are the best they can be right now. But I'd like us to really look at it as maybe it can ease a little bit more and you lose one parking spot or something. But we all know that transition when you have the green light can be it's a little difficult if you don't know the territory.
Yes.
Okay, anyway, anyone else?
But you'll just be changing the problem to the other side of the road.
And you're gonna lose
Potentially, yeah.
And you're losing
potentially.
functionality.
If you're not, and then here's the other thing, the people that are used to the way it is, they're going to
Sure.
have to retrain them how to
Yeah.
down our street. I just think if you did a poll on this entire, we're talking about 10 spots on about a half a mile
Mm-hmm.
stretch. If we did a poll of all the people that lived on there,
I live on there.
I think that most people would not be in favor of this. I just think people don't like change.
Well, and I think the functionality that you would be losing, I mean, in front of Victorian Towers, in front of the library, I mean, we are all creatures of habit, right?
The
You know,
post office.
Post office,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry. We're all creatures of habit, so I think people are just used to, and, you know, if you could make the transition a little bit smoother, fine, but I don't see flip-flopping it, I don't,
Okay.
it's not.
I can see it if we were to change the dimensions of the road, such as widening it or something like that. That was an option, that'd be,
And I'm pretty much staying, you know, neutral on this, because, you know, yes, there are a lot of parking spots that can be, you know, realized if we do change it. But, you know, again, I would abstain no matter what, and you guys would run.
oh, aren't you
So-
lucky?
No, and,
Okay,
you know,
no, it's right to abstain.
It wouldn't matter one way or the other for me, honestly, but yeah, some people, you know, favor parking on one side versus the other, but, you know, let's look at it realistically and, you know, but, you know, you have the post office, which I think is the most challenging. So,
But I'd ask Mr. Dietrich, whatever it is, I would assume it sounds like keeping the parking the way it is, but if there's any way to ease that,
I can look at doing that when we do the final striping for that. And then the final thing I know is listed on the agenda for driveway striping. Just wanted to briefly comment, if you're okay with, so currently, we have a process where if somebody wants to request a permit to park in front of their driveway, we do an analysis to make sure the driveway is wide enough to accommodate a car, and then you can get a driveway parking permit for to park in front of your own driveway. We have some instances where the driveway's not wide enough so they don't get the parking permit, but they want to have the line, they want to have paint on the road so that people don't park in their driveway, but we don't have a way to process to charge them for that. I just want to make sure council was okay that if we could move forward with amending that ordinance to create that line item, that if they're denied or if they want to ask to paint that, because we have a painting charge in the driveway permit cost for the public works to go out and paint it, but we can apply that painting for somebody that doesn't have the right proper width of driveway for a parking permit, but we can still paint their driveway even though they can't park in it, so that other people don't park in their driveways, just to kind of enumerate where the parking is. So it's really a process so that we can follow and charge the person under the ordinance.
okay,
All right, so we'll work on
Sounds
that
good.
ordinance update.
okay. City clerk?
None tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Council members, deputy mayor?
nothing today.
Okay. Councilmember McDade?
Yeah, just very briefly, we all received a communication from Deputy Manager Riggs on Triad posting for the affordable housing, low-income housing, which is great to finally see that those are being opened up. And I did just ask whether or not he could reach out to Triad and figure out if there's a way to enable someone to apply who doesn't have an email address. I went through the online myself, and it really does currently limit. So we want to be as inclusive as possible, so figuring out how they could either call or get access to a paper application if necessary, so that we're not, that everyone has access to be able to apply for the housing, so.
That's great. Councilmember Meyer?
I have nothing today, Mayor.
Councilmember Yeager?
I had nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I have nothing. So I just welcome everyone to the 5:30 starts the police National Night Out, and is always fun. So if you have a chance, go check it out. With that, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia Avenue. I just have a quick question. In the water bill, there was a letter attached, and I thought it was just, my neighbor, approached me, thought it was in our area, that there was a lot of flooding claims in the area. But when I realized it, that everybody got that letter. So it wasn't like my neighbor thought, oh, it's just our area, And so I guess I'm bringing that up to the reason why it was included.
I did that one, to raise awareness for flooding generally in the city, but also to spur that conversation with the people that would be, and most of the people that have called have been outside the flood hazard area. So they're like, hey, we're not in a flood zone, and why are we getting this letter? So it was allowing me to reach some of those people and talk to them about the regulations that were just put on the register this, I think last week or this week, and I did the presentation at the last or 2 council meetings ago, or last council, about the REAL and JPACT rules and the implications of those regulations coming out, where if they're promulgated and effectuated, that all properties within the city will now be in a flood zone and have to be impacted by the flood hazard rule. So it was more to spur that discussion
Okay.
and have that
Right.
have that ability.
Because my neighbor's like, should we call him? I said, well,
Yes.
the issue of what we have in our neighborhood is we have clay. So when it rains, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
I said, what do you think he's going to do? I mean, it was basically,
Well, for those people, there are remedies. Like if people have poor drainage in their yard, and because it is clay, there are remedies that you can do, and a lot of that is, I call it deep soil aeration, and essentially you got to poke holes through that clay layer and get down to the sandy layer and fill that with sand, and then your backyards will drain better than holding that clay layer. So there are, and actually I worked with a resident
well,
of
it
Rowan
doesn't
Second
help
Ave.
too that our neighbors out back, their drains all point to our yard, which is low.
Then my second conversation is to put, downspouts into a French drain so that we get the stormwater in the ground and not flowing across the top of the surface.
Well,
So there's different,
the
there's
thing
several
is,
ways.
though, they did that to my other neighbor on the other side with the new housing, and the problem is, because it's clay, it didn't go down far enough, so now we just have a retention basin of water that's collecting mosquitoes because it doesn't drain, and it just sits there.
Yep.
So, but thank you for your explanation. My other one has to do with your comment on painting driveways. Can we get a set standard on how far from the driveway it gets painted? Because I know on Columbia Avenue, it's like 3 feet on one side, 3 feet on another side, and you're almost losing a whole parking spot because where these people painted their own driveway lines at, where, a car could be parking, but they made it so that it's driveway.
Well, and that's the problem with people painting their own driveways. So, only the city or the county should be painting the roadways. So
Right.
we do have a standardized.
You do have a standardized on how
Yes.
far from the thing? Okay,
Yes.
that was my other. My next question also has pertained with you also, has to do with and you were on vacation, but back on, I think it was May 7th, there was the AME church applications with SHPO. They were incomplete. Have those applications been completed?
Yes, and SHPO is waiting to make their final determination. The last thing they were waiting for was a window detail, and that was submitted last week, and they've acknowledged they've received that.
And it also, I think it was, they're waiting on detailed drawings of the steeple, too.
No, they received those months ago.
They already received them?
Yes.
Okay, that's what my other question was. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. Paul, I know, I'm assuming you just received this notice as well about
Yes.
the flood hazard increase. Is Cape May going to stay on our own course, or are we going to be joining with some of the other shore communities to present a case where we can maybe get some little different treatment? Because as you know from the map, it is devastating to not only to Cape May, but to many other communities.
I think, was it last meeting, or we did pass a resolution objecting to the rules, and we'll be submitting that as our formal comments
in
to that.
partnership with the county.
Yeah, the county created a model resolution. The city adopted that at our last meeting, and now that the official comment period is open, we will submit that as our official comments to those rules.
Is there going to be any effort to join in with any of the other, particularly the communities in the county?
The county is,
Connie's going around to all the municipalities and asking for their support.
Yes.
They've gone to all the meetings and things like that.
And they've gotten resolutions of support, I think, from all but two. Even Woodbine, that doesn't have any flood hazard zones, adopted the resolution. So the county may also be looking at the need for more formal action. And so we're working closely with the county administrator's office on this
I would
issue.
encourage Cape May to become much more aggressive in opposing this impact that we're going to have. Obviously, it's not going to affect anybody in this room,
Well-
but it is going to affect their generations behind them. And if we don't,
I think it would affect everybody in this room.
well,
It's going to affect everybody in Cape May County. I mean, and we also have the way the public can get involved. We have put on social media, and I think it's on our website, there's a handout letter with a QR code that you can scan that will create an automated email to a distribution list that includes the governor's office, the commissioner's office, and several state legislators, just talking about how these rules are not
because
appropriate.
the concerning thing is, the notice that I received about the public information in the hearings, this thing is being accelerated from what I can see by DEP. And
It's not.
That's a concern,
It's not being accelerated.
okay?
I mean, we have concerns about the rules, yes, but it's not being accelerated.
All right. I'll
Because these rules have been in promulgation for about a year and a half.
The problem, Mr. Roush, is the rules are 1,000 pages long and nobody reads it, except Paul. Which,
Just once.
in all seriousness, though, Mr. Roush, I do want you to know that we are well represented by Paul. I mean, he's being called by.
Oh, I'm not questioning that.
Yeah, I know you're not. I
I'm
know you're not.
questioning the severity of the
It's
regulations.
It's crazy, and we are going to have a presentation from Paul and Peter Lomax coming up sometime
I may have him come
Okay.
over.
to go over it in more detail so that everyone has a better understanding of it. But I mean, the ramifications would be very, very tough on our county. And the point that I've made multiple times is if this was affecting North Jersey like it is South Jersey, this wouldn't be happening. There's no way these major metropolitan areas along the coastline, which there are many in North Jersey and Jersey City and Elizabeth, many of those communities that are right along the ocean and or the river right there, that are affected by flooding just as much as we are. So I think a point that really needs to be made by South Jersey is if this is truly about sea level rise and things like that, it's not only happening in South Jersey, so why is the law only affecting South Jersey? And I know there's an answer to that, but I don't like, the answer to me is not a fair one.
Well,
But we also have an advantage. So the one thing that some of our residents feel is a disadvantage, being in the historic district,
I realize that.
but also because our entire city limits are within a national historic landmark, there may be provisions, if I talk with council and they feel comfortable with me exercising, because historic structures are exempt from the flood hazard rules. Now there's interpretations of flood hazard structures, flood hazard districts, and national landmark status that I may be asking to take a broader brush at, but this may be one case where being a historic structure or being within our historic designated district within the city limits may be a benefit that you may not be regulated by these impending regulations.
But there's the ramifications of this change go well beyond the ability to get a mortgage, as an example. You're going to have lenders look at it, and they're basically going to redline certain areas. Same thing with homeowners insurance or tenants insurance or liability insurance. All those things come into play in a very, very big way that are frankly almost beyond what
It's going
what you can do. But
going to require people who are outside the flood zone now to get flood insurance.
Well, not yet.
Well,
Not directly, not
okay.
yet. Well, to be
Yeah,
honest,
I
to be honest.
I appreciate
and
that, Paul.
Any,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to pick on Maureen right now. Maureen lives in Village Green, outside of the flood hazard zone. Her mortgage company could go to her today and require her to carry flood insurance. It's up to the mortgage company to decide, even if you're, it's mandatory if you're in the flood hazard zone to carry flood insurance, mandatory. But if you're outside the flood hazard zone, your mortgage company could still require you to carry an appropriate hazard insurance that they feel deemed necessary, and require somebody outside of the flood hazard area to carry appropriate flood insurance. So
And
they can already do that, but I do agree that this is probably one step in a path.
Think of what it'll do to auto insurance. This thing is a great deal more than just a couple of pages. And I'd like to follow what Mr. Meyer had suggested earlier this year, that we have a town hall meeting. And this, in my view, would be the subject that would be appropriate for the citizens to understand how important this particular subject is. And maybe we can generate a groundswell of individuals that would exert their opinion on the state. I think it's something that we ought to be thinking about.
I'm not, just towards your comment about them accelerating the pace, I was surprised. I just read the rap today in the Herald, and what they mentioned in here was that the neighbors that didn't want a guy to rebuild a beachfront home that was damaged sued the DEP because the DEP said they could rebuild the home on the beach. This is in Manaloking, Ocean County. And took them to court, and they actually, the DEP won, and the people will be rebuilding the home on the beach in Ocean County. Now, if we're serious about changing this and preventing that from happening, that just seems to be pretty much in conflict with what their strategy is right now.
The only other comment that I'll make is we've been fortunate to have a lot of grants. One of the basic approvals or credits that we get is the status of the city being historic. I'm also concerned that once this legislation, if it would go through, the applications for grants, when they look at the maps and they see what increase in flood areas there are, that may impact the consideration for grants. So it's just another idea or reason why it becomes important to pursue this.
Well, the worst part, Mr. Roush, is that it's not legislation, it's executive order. And I think Mr. Dietrich had a good suggestion. Mr. Dietrich had a good suggestion. A lot of people, secondary homeowners need to go up to their politicians up north and plead their case, I went to West Cape May's meeting because they had Mr. Lomax explain the situation to all of us. And the other thing that affects the city is that it has to do with infrastructure, too. So we're not just raising houses up, we're raising roads and everything else.
Right. Well, I think that any kind of a public forum needs to make sure that we are including secondary homeowners, because it is the only way to make sure that people understand the implications and to put the pressure on not only for residents who live in New Jersey, but if they're living in Pennsylvania or New York or anywhere, talking to their local politicians to say, listen, this is a DEP, which is a national agency that's looking to effectuate this in New Jersey. So, I think we need to make sure that we're getting the word out to not only people who live here full-time, but people who own property in this city.
Can't agree more. Just a couple of little things. I was approached last weekend by an owner of a beachfront home, and they were told that the arches are going to be continued west to the cove. And I said, I've never heard it. It's never been mentioned in any of the public meetings, and I'm a bit concerned that rumor is maybe started or turned around. Is there any accuracy to that comment?
The only thing, and we've said it multiple times at multiple meetings, the only thing that was presented to us the last time at a city council meeting was between Primal, the arcade there, where it ends, and lifeguard headquarters. So that was the only proposal that we had on the table. That's the only funding that we know of from the Fund for Cape May. The city is not going to build arches at taxpayers' expenses, so unless somebody else came up with some money.
I was asked if I would ask council today.
You got the
And I
answer.
said I'd be happy to do that.
But I think that, the point that was made before, and you have to believe that nothing like that would happen, no matter who's paying for it, until council approves it. So everybody's going to have a chance to discuss this if they come to us with a proposal. And I know people, I tell people that and they say, I don't know, I keep hearing, I'm telling you, it will come to city council.
One other thing, and I need to preface it by saying, I think the Ramble at the Chalfont is a very nice program. I've never opposed it, but I would like to make a comment or read a statement that, it's been reported that the Alcohol Beverage Commission visited the Chalfont and at Ramble Night noted several violations.
That's not true, Mr. Roush.
Okay.
I'm not going to comment on this because it's my establishment, but that statement is inaccurate.
Okay.
And who reported that?
I
You
don't
just said
know.
it was reported.
Well, the only other statement that I'd like to make is, it was said that there's going to be 2 Cape May police officers in attendance at Ramble Night. And my question is the taxpayer paying for those police officers?
No.
Or is that
No,
being paid
no,
for
the-
by?
I'll comment because I just want to clear this. I want nothing to do with it because I don't operate the Chalfont, my family does. But we want to make sure it's done as professionally as possible and make sure it's done. I understand that as the mayor, there's going to be extra attention on me. So my brother asked the chief of police, what do we need to do? What should we do to make this best? And hired police officers at his expense. So no taxpayer, but I will say, if you go out in front of a lot of the local bars,
Well, I was going to make that
you will
statement,
see,
Mr. Mayor.
you will see police officers there, and they should be, and they should.
Well, yeah, but they should be paying for it as well. We've had one bar on Beach Avenue that historically has been an issue, and they've had a lot of violations, and I know there are police officers there, and that business should pay for those police officers. So I'm not being critical.
I don't necessarily totally disagree with you. I do think police officers have to be in known areas. I mean, and that's in every town. We know, police officers know where certain activities occur, and I think that happens in every community. I think you could really dial in and look at who should be paying for what, and I understand it, believe me. I'm not totally disagreeing with that, but are you going to tell the police not to go to the locations that are known?
No, obviously, if there's a police call for some irregularity, that's a police call. But to have police stationed,
Yeah. Well, and
I don't think is
we
appropriate
do
unless they pay
require-
for it.
We do require bouncers and I don't know what the technical term on that is. It might be bouncers. Within any establishment's liquor license. So I think to your point, Mr. Roush, we should be making sure that those establishments are providing what they're telling us they
That's-
provide.
That's the only point that I'd like to make.
Thank
And
you.
the other issue is, this year we have seen a marked change in the numbers of people coming to Cape May.
There's
and
a lot.
And a huge increase in the amount of entertainment at night. And any of us who live near the beach knows that is a huge increase this year. Thank you very much.
I agree with that, Mr. Roush. I think if anyone reports a noise violation, it should be checked up from our code enforcement and made sure that no noise violations are occurring. I mean, I encourage anyone who feels like there is an issue and that someone's breaking the noise, having a noise violation, should report it.
I make a positive comment. I've been very pleased. I've made a complaint, and I've been very pleased with the reaction of the police department and what they have done in trying to cure the problem.
Thank you,
So,
Mr. Roush.
Thank you.
Anyone else today, this afternoon? Seeing none? Go ahead, Dennis.
I don't know, can you? Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I'm Dennis Crowley. I live on Lafayette Street, 806. This discussion, I wasn't going to comment about anything, but this discussion you folks had a little while ago about the parking in the Washington Street traffic and so forth. Since 2000, the city has issued 3 master plans. And each of those master plans have said that there should be one-way traffic on Washington and Lafayette. And recommended each time that the council review and discover the good and bad aspects of that suggestion. There's a lot of benefit to be had for that. There's a lot of work to be done before you ever did it. But the discussion you had struck me as rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You're talking about a little thing, a little piece of a very big problem. And that's how people come into town and how they come out of town and where they park. If those streets were made one way, you'd have a lot of parking spaces freed up.
And maybe bike lanes.
And you'd have a bike lane, and you'd have traffic calming aspect of a one-way street. And you'd also solve the problem up at Texas Avenue, where everybody seems to converge from Washington, Lafayette, and Texas to get out of town at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they took their daily beach tags and they're going back to their accommodations in Lower Township. So maybe it's time to do that. I'm suggesting that we all go back to the master plan, reread what it said about it. If it said it 3 times in 23 years, it's incumbent on the city to actually take that seriously. So my suggestion would be let's do that. And that's my suggestion. It's a heavy lift. It's going to cause a lot of problems, but it's going to solve a lot of problems. So my suggestion to you folks is maybe let's try and do that.
Well, I would hand that right to Mike Yeager. In all seriousness, with the bicycle and pedestrian engineer that's going through things now, I just want to say this. I know that's like a pretty controversial topic. So
Yes.
You're just bringing it up now. It's been in the master plan.
I know.
I think it is something that could be absolutely looked at, but I just want to say very clearly to the public right now that that would be a look at and a very public conversation that isn't going to happen by October, by the way. I mean, we would still continue with paving the street. You may have to change some lines around at a
Sure, and you're going to have to
time or
deal with the
whatever,
county too.
but-
I'm not saying do it by October. I'm saying it's been important enough to get into the master plan for 23 years. Let's take a seasoned look at this thing sooner or later to see whether actually it does work
Okay.
and how much it would cost the city to make that change.
Thank you.
I'm not saying do it now. I'm saying let's start doing it now.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
And just quickly before we close, on Washington Street, Mrs. Notch, go ahead. I would just say that Washington Street will be nothing like Lafayette Street in regards to construction. It's a mill and pave. It's not a utilities and infrastructure. You saw how quickly the mill and pave process actually took place on Lafayette Street. I think the estimate is basically less than a week for the actual paving of Washington, just FYI. 3 days.
Mary Notch, 1115 Washington Street. Mr. Crowley, I don't know how long you've been here about the Washington Street, one way out and one way in. We lived through this. They actually did it one time, and living where we are down by the Physic Estate, you could sit on your front porch and you could hear them gearing up at Madison Avenue, and by the time they hit down in our neighborhood, they were going 40, 50 miles an hour on the way out of town. It did not work, and I am very much against this. But they tried it, it didn't work, and we've been there 54 years, and I do not want to see that changed. And Lorraine lives on Washington Street also. But it's really from Madison Avenue out of town, the traffic, it was horrendous. And it was 2 lanes, so you're not picking up parking spaces on Washington Street because they had 2 lanes going out from Madison Avenue. And it was really dangerous. You could not get it down to your driveways.
Mrs. Notch, what year was that? I'd like to do some research in the
late
newspapers.
I don't remember exactly when it was, and the problem was too, at that time, when they did it, they did not notify the residents ahead of time. We were on vacation, and we came home, and we were going on the wrong traffic.
Wow.
We came home.
I promise
Did
you,
not
we
know
won't
it.
do that. Yeah.
So it was bad.
Your comments are well received. Anyone else this evening or afternoon? Motion? Okay. All right. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
The time is now 3:10. Enjoy your afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you.
They did drop them off, but I had National Night shirt out coming for everybody.
All right.
I said.
Oh, really?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I just lost my dog in December. I feel like I just lost him.
I got a question. Was his grandpa, a slow thinker, so I didn't get
Oh, yeah.